the moms. I mean, all the people who are moms, happy Mother's Day. Let's give it up for the band. That's what Pastor Tim always says. Let's give it up for the band. I am not the pastor of this church. My husband is. He's right back there. Everybody say hi. He loves this moment. You have to wave so everybody knows who you are. He's like, no, I'm not going to do it. He's back. He's had some back issues, and he's been out for like 3 weeks, 2 weeks. So we're glad you're back. He's back. He's not back, but he's standing. So we're happy about that. How are you, moms? Are you doing okay? I don't think we can honor them enough. Let's hear it again. Let's get rounds of applause for moms. If you think to yourself, well, we did breakfast and I got a card, so we're done. I'm good. You know what? Just do more. You can always just do more. I want to take a moment, too, to honor my mom who surprised me right after first service and came today. Thank you for being amazing. She has always been an amazing mom. So we're glad that you're here. And my dad. Thank you so much. We're so glad that y'all are here today. So it's Mother's Day. Or do you have big plans? Brunch? I guess we missed that memo. Lunch? Long lines at lunch. Did you make reservations? Has anybody learned around here if you decide on Sunday you're going to go to lunch, you can't find a place to sit? And then one year we're like, let's go to a fancy lunch. So Tim starts trying to make reservations like on Saturday. No, it's like 3 o'clock was the closest one or something. It's a little crazy. I'm like, let's just drive through Whataburger and be done with it, right? And then everybody's happy for the day. I'm a boy mom. Any boy moms in the room? I love that. Woo! What about the girl moms? Where are you guys at? A little louder because they have to be usually, I can see. Boy moms have to be tough. I learned that. I've learned that through the years. Our oldest is 21. Our youngest is 14. And, you have to be tough. You have to have thick skin. You can't let them get to you. You can't. You can't let them get to you. And you never know what's going to happen because also Tim is a huge comedian. And so they all kind of have this jokey thing. And I never know, does any other mom have a limit? Like, today is not a funny day. Stop messing with me. Do you have that? Where they're like, well, yesterday you thought that was funny. It's not funny today, right? And I never know what they're going to do. So Friday, I was taking Silas, our youngest, and his friend his friend was going to spend the night, and he needed to get some things from his house. So drove him over to the next neighborhood, across the way, too far for a bike ride. Take them over and get their stuff. And it's late, like Friday. It's about 8:30, so it's dark, and the neighborhood is having like a block party or something, right? So a lot of adults out, children, cones. Anybody else's neighborhood, like when the children are out in the streets, the cones come out, and it's like, slow down! And all the adults are yelling at the teenagers passing by in massive trucks, slow down, hey! And the teenagers are waving, maybe not waving, something else, they're waving at you. So this situation is going on. I happen into it, whatever. We get over to the house, and the adults are all outside of this kid's house, and we're talking, and while they go inside to get their things. And there's also adults inside, so they're kind of coming in and out, and this man walks out as Silas and his friend are walking out. They're done with getting all their things, and he's like, hey, are you the Russians, Mom? I was like, what? The what? Are you the Russian kids, Mom? Like, no, I don't, no. And he's like, is this yours? I was like, yes, yeah, that's our youngest, Silas. And he's like, oh, okay. And that was it. He just kind of like stopped talking, and then I was like, well, I guess, okay, let's go, guys. We get in the car. You know that awkward thing that happens? So we get in the car, and I'm like, Silas, what was that about? What did you say to him inside? And he said, oh, he asked me my name, and I said, I'm a foreign exchange student. I go, why? He said, because it was funny. And then he asked me where I was from, and I said, from Mother Russia. And that was that. Then the guy came out and asked me if I was the Russians' mom, which I thought was funny. I was like, you know what? He's just trying to get down to brass tacks. So, you never know what you're going to get with your kids. Anybody else? Where you're like, why? I'm sorry they said that in public. I'm sorry. No, you're not supposed to say that. I'm going to beat you later when we get home, right? You ever do that? You like getting the emails from the school. It's like, this is a reminder for your child, please. And you're like, I'm sorry, it's not my kid. It's his kid. It's not mine. He did that. So today we're going to be continuing the story of Elijah. Pastor Tim started this series a few weeks ago, and when he went down after Easter, and Pastor Derek picked it up, and then we had brotherhood, and so now we're gonna get right back into the story. And you might be wondering, how are you going to mix Elijah, the goat prophet, with Mother's Day? But you know, if Pastor Tim can do it on Easter with Elijah, the Princess Bride, and the resurrected Savior, I feel like we can find something today, right? What? I mean, that is amazing skill, too. I was like, you just did that. You just did that, and it all worked. So we're going to get right back into now. Let me just catch you up really quick on where we were, because it's been a couple of weeks, in the story of Elijah. In chapter 18, which we just wrapped up, that is the fire has fallen from heaven. He had the showdown with the 450 prophets of Baal, and he's like, come on, bring your A game. Oh, call out louder. Are you trying to conjure up some fire here? He's not answering you. Maybe he's asleep. Maybe he's busy. Maybe he's on a trip. You should scream louder. I'm sure he could hear you if you just keep trying. And they try for hours and hours and hours to the point of complete and total exhaustion, and utter chaos breaks out. And then, of course, Elijah's like, you know what? Now it's my turn. One man against 450 prophets, and here's the altar that we're praying for fire to strike down and hit, that they've been unsuccessful at all day. And he's like, you know what, before I ask, let's just, remember what he did? Pour the water over it. And he's like, you know what? Pour it again. Okay, pour it again. Let there be no doubt. Remember that from Easter? Let there be no doubt who the King of Kings and Lord of Lords is here this day. And did he deliver? Yes, he delivered, right? The fire falls from heaven. It licks up every ounce of moisture on the ground, and everybody that's there that day knows who Elijah's God is. He has made an entrance. They're all watching. He's done that, and then Elijah's like, he turns to the king, Ahab, the wicked king, who's there with his entire entourage. Think like Aladdin-esque. There's this caravan of all these things. And he's like, you know what? You guys go on back now that this is done and we're clear on who the real God is. You guys go on back to town. I'm going to stay, and I'm going to stay back. You guys go, and I'll meet you up there. And he stays, because he's like, you know what? I know God did amazing things today, but he's not done. Anybody ever kind of feel that? There's like a little bit left on the table, like, you know, God wants to do just a little more. He's like, he's not done. Today is the day this famine is going to end. We're going to pray until he sends some rain. We're going to ask for God to provide, because remember, they're in this predicament because there's a famine, and they are desperate for rain. As Texans, we understand this, don't we? Today is the first day of the preview of the rest of the year. And should you think September is your break, no. If you're new to Texas, it's about November we finally get a break from the heat. Anybody know? Are you surprised every year, like, why is it still 90 degrees in November? Why? And then you're reminded that's because you live in Texas. So we understand what that feels like to want the moisture, and they are desperate. At this point, it's affecting their life. It is shutting things down. They have to have water, and they are desperate for it, right? So Elijah's like, we're going to ask for God to do this today, because he's not done. I know he did something amazing. We're going to keep going. So he sends his little servant. The way the story goes, as Derek preached it a couple weeks ago, remember, one more time? He sends him over, he goes, go find some clear sky and tell me if you see any clouds. And while you're gone, I'm going to pray. I'm going to stand here and pray. And he gets on his face, and it says he just pleads with God and begs God to send the rain, to provide. And the servant comes back, and he's like, yeah, it's clear skies. There's no clouds. And he's like, go back and look again. Now, how many times this guy went back? 7 times. How far was it? I always want that detail. Like, did it take him 20 minutes to go there and then 20 minutes back? Was it like just around the trees? What was it? Was it way across? Was it miles? I don't know. He went back and forth 7 times. And Elijah is soaking the ground with his tears and his pleading with God, right? He is begging God to do something. And the servant comes back that 7th time, and he's like, I see a distant cloud the size of a man's hand. You gave me that detail. I'd like to know how far you ran. But I see a size of a man's hand in the distance. And Elijah knows that's all he needs to know. God is sending the rain. It's coming today. So he immediately gathers up his cloak, which, you know, it's his heavy leather or layers and things, right? Which they didn't have the running science down yet. They didn't have the dry fit, little something they could wear to go running in. It was all these layers that he gathers them all up, he tucks them in his belt, I guess, and he takes off running. And now we pick up the story right here. He gets back to town. We'll get to that in a minute. Now let's pick up in chapter 19. That's what's happened. Here we are in the context, chapter 19, verse 1. Now Ahab gets home. He tells his wife Jezebel everything that Elijah had done and how he had killed all the prophets with the sword. And Jezebel sends a messenger. She is upset. Those are her guys. These are her guys that she put in power. And he has wiped them all out succinctly the day before. He's like, you tell Elijah, may the gods deal with me ever so severely if by this time tomorrow you're not meeting the same fate. Like basically, this is your death threat. You're going to die tomorrow. You got one day to live. You better make it count because I'm coming for you. And Elijah, this mighty man of God, what does verse 3 say? He is afraid and runs for his life. You're like, Elijah, what happened? You were on the mountaintop. You're the man. Everybody knows it. There is no doubting. You can call fire from heaven. You can pray so hard that it starts to actually rain. Like you have a connection with God. You kind of like, you're the insurmountable all world. You got the W. You're the Tom Brady. You can do anything. You're the GOAT. Everybody knows it. And he cowers at her words, right? And then he starts taking off, run for his life. He says he ran to Beersheba in Judah. He runs right past his servant. He doesn't even blink at that. And he runs as far as he can into the wilderness, a day's journey. And he finds a bush and he sits down and he says, just let me die. I have had enough. Has anybody been there? I've had enough. I can't take anymore. Just take my life. Let me be like my ancestors and basically be at rest. And then he laid down and he went to sleep. My, how the mighty have fallen here, right? Look at this guy. What has happened? So I want you to say, number one, the power we give to other people. Number one, that's the first point. The power we give to other people. Wrong words from the wrong woman will mess you up. That's what Pastor Tim says. Does anybody? Am I alone? If you've ever heard some wrong words from someone and it messed you up, let's hear you say, yep. Okay, so we all can, let's empathize with Elijah. I always want to get down in there and be like, what was happening in your brain? What was going on? Well, we don't have to wonder because we can see it so clearly. He's just defeated all of the haters. He's just defeated all of those who would purport to be able to do anything that your God can do, Elijah. And not only that, he can beat you at everything. He can show up. He can deliver. He can set free. He can do anything you want. He can call fire down from heaven. Okay, let's see. And of course, Elijah wins. He has just been on top of the mountain, and now he's in the valley. Has anybody ever been there where you feel like your life is a little bipolar? Where it's like, man, that was a great day. And then bam, the next day is like the worst day ever. And you know something's going on. Like, whoa. And you can feel it happening. And this is Jezebel. Jezebel, she's not known to be like a life coach. You understand? She's bad news. Nobody's calling her up to hang out with her or get pro tips on any kind of like wifedom or motherdom. No. She's a bad girl. She's manipulative. She's controlling. She's dangerous. She is dangerous. She has power. She's power hungry. And that's how she rules, with an iron fist right alongside her husband. In fact, some could say she was kind of the power behind him, right? She kind of set all this in motion with the Baal worship there in Israel, and now God is getting ready to take care of business, which my husband said, don't you go past verse 5. You're getting into my territory for the rest of the series, so I have to save that for him. But now Elijah got Jezebeled. You don't want to get Jezebeled, right? One word from her, and all the good he had done is erased, and he's on the bottom, defeated, depleted, completely destroyed, in utter despair for his life. Man, it's hard to deal with that. It's something I've learned through the years is when we give audience, that we just hand it over, when we let what someone says start affecting the way we behave and the way we react, we're basically just giving them power over our life. You're just handing them control of who you are, how you interact with your family or your friends or your church or the school or your coworkers or your boss. That starts affecting you, right? Have you ever been there where someone's words that you heard about or somebody said it to you and you now let that affect you? But there's always something deeper going on. But some of us are just swayed by all of that. And of course, the answer is that when we are strong enough and secure enough in who God made us to be, we don't have to be completely and totally devastated when those things get thrown out. None of that matters. You kind of learn that as you walk, but sometimes we get so messed up that we just give the power away because we can't see straight. Anybody, the power that we give to others. Number 2, the power of words. There's a great verse in Proverbs 18:21 that says, we're going to take a break from Elijah for a moment and dig into this. It says that the power of life and death is in the tongue. What does that mean? Y'all know, you've seen people you can build up with this little tool here. You can tear down. Anybody? You can destroy someone. Some of you, that's your spiritual gift. I don't know. And you have to be like, God, help me today not to be so mean. I'm going to work on it, right? But sometimes when that's in there, it just comes flying out of your mouth and you can't, anybody can't put the words back in fast enough. But once it's said, right? Once it's out there, we can't put it back in. And I wonder if we ever think about the power of our words and how important it is for us to take notice when it starts to tumble out in an out of control, chaotic way, and now suddenly other people are affected. I'm just curious if there's any other moms that have had that kind of day. I'm gonna speak to the moms for a moment. The crazy mom day. You can lighten up, everybody. We're all friends. I had one this week. I'll raise my hand first. Anybody else have one this week? You don't have to raise your hand. I'll tell you all a story. This happened this week. My kids don't even know this happened. About 5 o'clock in the morning, I'm going to get up and go work out because I'm silly. I like to get up when it's still light. Tim's like, why do you get up in the middle of the night to go work out? Well, I can't find any other time to do it. So I've just resigned myself. You have to brush your teeth, you have to do laundry, you have to work out. It is one of those things, right? You just have to embrace it. So I'm getting up to work out, and you know the thing, moms. When you go to bed, I went to bed early, was tired, and the kitchen was clean. Anybody? It was clean. The dishes are done, the counters were wiped down, things are put away, school papers, what is that, right? All the school papers and the bills, the things, it was all clean. Couches were, the pillow thing, that was a thing on that. Yes, why are the pillows always in the floor? To which my family would say, why do we have all these pillows, right? Well, we can't have enough pillows because we need to offset and have the different colors. Anybody else? So I went to bed, kitchen's clean. Get up. I step outside my door. I always set my clothes out the night before, so I, get dressed for the gym and and then I walk out and I step out and I could just see it from my bedroom. I could just see the landscape of the downstairs. And they've stayed up and played games and stuff. So there's water bottles kind of sitting around half full, you know what I mean? Always, right? The lids are, the twisting of the water bottles, anyway, and the popping of the lid. It's like stepping on a Lego in the middle of the night. You're just like, Tourette's, why? Just, because they want to see how far their lid can go. Or the flipping, we're still doing the flipping of the water bottles. Anyway, I digress. So there's just snacks, chip bags, and such. All the evidence is there. Because, they like to put the trash right by the trash can, on the counter right by it. It's just right there. It's just like the laundry basket. It was just one more step. Just one more. That's it right there. This is personal therapy for me this morning, so thank you. So, okay, fine. I'm going to also be green and pour the rest of that water out and put that in the recycle. And I'm going, all the things we do, right? And then I step in some kind of dirt and soot and stuff all over the floor. And that was it. I had enough, because that wasn't there either. And then you realize like a trail. And so Tim is sleeping soundly. All of the bedrooms of the children are upstairs. Our bedroom is downstairs. And usually when I get up that early, I'm very quiet. I'm trying to be considerate and like not wake him up, because I know I'm getting up stupid early. And so, I'm trying to be quiet. Not this day. Not this day. It's 5:15 a.m. Tim is not a morning person either. And I just fling the door open. It hits the wall behind it. I know full well what's back there. And I'm like, could you clean up after yourself maybe? Did you ever think about that? And he's like, now we both have embraced the sleep mask. Anybody else? We're ridiculous. We have to have music on, like rain sounds and sleep masks and things. Both of us, we're both like all geared up for sleep. And he is like on his pillows because his back's all janky. So he's got this little system. He's slightly sitting up with the thing. And I see him kind of move like, I can't see his eyes. I turn the light on. I start vacuuming everything. Just hitting the doors. I'm going to put some laundry up. I'm going to open the drawers and close them really loud. They're popping back open as I do it. I'm in full anger mode. And then I'm like, I can't tell if he's listening. Are you getting this? I want you to remember this day. And don't ever do this again. I'm in a complete out of control mode. And I walk over to him and I lift that sleep mask up. I'm like, are you listening to me? Am I exaggerating? I'm not. I wish that I could say, I exaggerated for laughs. No, just honest. And he's like, yep. Yep, I understand. Okay. Because he knows there's nothing he can say, right? He's learned. Guys, don't even start. You just shouldn't. It just makes it worse. So, whatever. I have my little conniption fit. I go to the gym. I walk in. Oh, good morning, everyone. Hi. Oh, I can't wait. Let's just work out. I need to work out this anger inside of me. I'm going to kill my family. Oh, I'm already like worked up again thinking about it. I'm sorry. A few hours later, I absolutely apologized. I was like, can we just forget this ever happened? Because I did go on like a texting anger rampage. Anybody else do that? And this, and by the way, and, and then later I was like, oh, that's now written down for all to see. Could have just left that out. So, it happens, moms. Does it happen? I can't be the only one, right? You're walking with Jesus, you're asking him to cover up your bad spots, but it happens because we're human, right? Don't point at your wife. Don't. Bad idea, Mark. Bad idea. Keep that. Kelly, you keep being a rock star. And it's funny here in North Texas, isn't it true? It's like first world problems that we find anything to complain about. Like we have these houses, we have manicured lawns, we have beautiful kitchens, and some of you have these awesome patios, and everything's built out and tricked out, and somehow we find something to complain about, right? Sometimes we might. And the really, sometimes they need to be corrected, and we need to coach each other. That's what we call it at our house. I have some coaching for you. I can't wait. But sometimes we need to help each other along, right? We're not all self-aware, and that's what maybe your spouse is for, and you learn a lot about yourself through raising kids, and it's when we get over into the overly critical part that it really becomes an issue. Like another verse says it's like a dripping faucet. Anybody like a drip? It's like you don't really notice it till it's really quiet and it just won't stop. It's kind of what that is, that overly critical, inflexible thing we do. There's another great verse in Proverbs 25:24, and it says, it's better to live on the corner of a roof than to share a house with a quarrelsome wife. That's tough stuff. Don't you want to be like Proverbs? Shut up, okay? What kind of situation was this guy in that this was his only option? To get up here and be like, you know what? She found me in the garage. She found me in my man cave. She found me next door having a drink with my buddy. She won't look on the rooftop. That's where I'll go. So, if you walk outside and you see your next door neighbor up there, you just be like, you toast him in the air and you say, I understand, man. I understand. You do you, boo. But I just wonder if anybody relates to maybe you're like, yeah, that is a good idea. That Proverbs is a genius. I'm going to go there today. Or maybe you're the woman that's like, I'm sorry. You're like me. I'm sorry. It's ugly and terrible. Ugh. But how bad, right? That we alienate everyone if we really take it seriously. And now we've alienated everyone in our house. And they just can't get away from us fast enough. They can't find the best way to get away. And they're devising plans to sit on the roof. The point is, we're not enjoyable, right? We make it difficult. We're so inflexible with our expectations that as soon as someone doesn't meet your expectation, you're like, I knew you couldn't do it. It's fine. You did it yesterday. You didn't do it yesterday, and I know you won't do it tomorrow. And suddenly your expectations are the king, and if they don't meet it, they're out. They're on a blacklist that you've created in your mind that only you can see. And then they start devising ways to work around your inflexibility, the war with your words that you bring to the table that's tearing down and really bringing death to relationships when you could find a way to bring life. Tim kind of said, it's really a choice of which B word do you want to be? You want to be a blessing or you want to be bitter? You're welcome. That was Tim Bourne right there. He's like, you could say it like this. Blessing or bitter, I have learned that when I want to be a blessing, but I'm holding on to bitterness and I'm trying to keep the two of them really close, that becomes this wrestling match inside of me. And it's not too long until it's outside of me, and now it's all around me. And I've created this storm because I'm really trying to be two different people. You can't hold blessing and hold bitterness at the same time. It doesn't work. It just doesn't work. There is a way for us to let that go. So the guy, or maybe if you're in the house and you're the woman trying to go away from the guy, whoever it is that's decided to hang out up top, they can come on down and they are welcome to hang out with the rest of the family because you're going to be a blessing. Let's give it up for those blessing people. I just always read that verse and I thought to myself, I'm going to get on top of that drum cage so we can see what that's like, right? Next thing I want to talk about is the power of exhaustion. This is like a real thing. Everybody, a lot of people here in North Texas, not everybody, most people, a lot of people, type A personalities, achievers, right? You're running hard and fast. 150% or you don't do anything halfway. I think most of our crowd is probably like that. You would be offended if someone accused you of being passive about anything, right? You're running hard and fast, so there's gonna be some exhaustion level. And let's get back into Elijah. What we see is that he found himself to the point of exhaustion, to the point that he was completely depleted. So now he is allowing Jezebel and her rage to come at him, and he is internalizing that. It's now controlling him, and he has succumbed to her words and the power that they hold over him, which we all tend to do, and he is exhausted. In verse 3 and 4, it's like he takes off running, he passes by his servant, and he runs as far as he can into the wilderness, a day's journey, and then he prayed that he would die. God, just take me now. Just take me now. I have had enough, he says. We hear the despair in his voice, right? It's interesting to see him in this light with just 24 hours before he's on the mountain. And now he is a completely different person, weak and fearful and trembling and catering and just giving in to all of it. But it might be reasonable that we see him at this point. Has anybody been there? I mean, he stood for hours while he basically led the charge of go ahead, see if your God can deliver, knowing that he couldn't, and then knowing that God could bring fire down that day. But is he going to do it? Have you ever been there where you're like, I know that he can. I don't know that he's going to, but I know that he can. But you're kind of waiting. Like, now I put myself out there, and I kind of need him to show up. And hours and hours and hours and hours and hours this whole charade went on. So that's mental exhaustion from devising strategies, using the skill set that God had given him to come up with ways to give God a bigger platform to show off. He did that for hours and hours and hours. You have mental, you have spiritual exhaustion. And then with the rain and the praying for the rain, you have him soaking the ground with his tears, begging and pleading God to provide what they needed, to bring the rain so that they could continue to sustain life. I wonder if anybody can relate to that moment where you've been so exhausted and depleted, all you know to do now is just get on your face before God. Because there are no other options, there's no other solution, there's no other working manual by which you can work through it. You know you're at the end of your options, and the only thing left is to cry out to God. There are moms in this room who have lost children, and it doesn't make sense. And I can't explain it. No one can. There are people in this room who wish they were moms, and it hasn't happened for them yet. And Mother's Day is hard. There are people in this room who have lost jobs, who have lost marriages to addiction. There are people in this room who are waiting for God to show up still. You think he can, but you haven't seen it yet. And you're exhausted. And you're not alone in that exhaustion. You're not alone in that. We all know what that's like to feel completely depleted. There is nothing left. A couple of years ago, I was in a place like that. I've shared that story with Sisterhood. I won't go into it today, but I was at the point where I couldn't answer another text. I couldn't answer another email. I couldn't plan anything else. I couldn't think of creative things to do. I had nothing left. I really couldn't even interact with people. It's a dark place to be, especially for a people person. But let's be honest today and say we've all been there. That point of exhaustion where you have alienated yourself and you have just given into it and let it take over. Lest we judge Elijah too quickly, that exhaustion is exhausting. And when it has cut through every layer that you have about you, spiritual, mental, emotional, physical, all of it, then everything is gone. And that's when God shows up. And that's when he might whisper something just to give you enough strength to get up and do it again. What's beautiful about this is what I have found is when we're running to God, we have access to a limitless supply of energy, don't we? And when we find ourselves running away from the thing that we fear, we are limited in every way, and we will never find a place of peace. It's elusive. And we find this thing at work within us. We know if we run to God and we grab a hold of what he's already told you and deposited in you, he will give you what you need. But we give into this thing where we want to run from everything that scares us because it's too scary, and we just run the other way. And then we fall and cripple in exhaustion. And what I have found is that God always finds me there. Elijah ran as far as he could into the wilderness. I believe as far as he could run after, by the way, when he ran, after the rain came, the fire came, and then the rain, it starts raining. He knows that cloud is bringing the rain, and he sends Ahab back to town. He's like, go, you guys go on back. I'm going to stay here and pray. As soon as that cloud appeared in the distance, it was the size of a man's hand, is what his servant said. It says he took off running. And when he took off running, that was 14 miles. 14 miles. He ran a half marathon. A half marathon. Any marathon people in here? Got the sticker 13.2 on your back? Good for you. I will slow clap you all day. I am not a runner. Bad at running. He ran a half marathon. And not only that, the scripture is super clear, and I love these details it gives. I want all the details of he outpaced Ahab and his entire entourage and beat them back to the city. So they left several hours before he did, and something supernatural takes place. I just imagine it's like the Flash from DC Comics. Like he's just alongside him, and actually if you dig in and do the research, it says he was outpacing the horses. So it wasn't like he teleported. No, he actually ran it. So we can see why he's exhausted. He's already run a half marathon and called fire down from heaven and prayed for the rain to come, and it came. And that now here he is. And Jezebel's like, you're dead. I'm coming after you. You better look out. Gird your loins. I'm on my way, and I'm bringing hell with me. That's what she said to him. And then he runs as far as he can into the wilderness to get away from everything and everybody so that no one can find him. That's what I imagine. Where can I go that's the furthest? Like he ran as far past Gunter as he could and ended up in some suburb of Sherman in a field somewhere, basically, right? Almost to Oklahoma. And he runs and runs and runs and runs and runs and runs and runs. And he finds this tree, sits down, goes to sleep. And look at the rest of verse 5. Look at this. It says he fell asleep, and all at once an angel shows up, kind of puts his hand right there, says, hey, get up and eat. Let's get something to eat. We don't really need to know any more than that to know all at once God is going to find you at your most exhausted point when you think you have outrun everybody and everything, because that is our God. He will not leave you alone. You might be scared. You're not going to face that giant by yourself. You might be exhausted. He's going to give you rest, and you're going to find strength to walk again. You might be completely defeated, but he's going to allow you to win. But you do have to look at him, lock eyes, and say, okay, I'm willing to stand up. And I'm willing to go again. I'm not tired. I'm going to keep going because I know that's what you purposed me to do. It's not easy to walk with God, but it is the best thing you will ever do for your life. There is no way to navigate everything coming at us, the words that people use, all of the things that we want to throw out. And when we walk with God, what happens is beautiful exchange takes place. This is how it's supposed to go, just in case you need to know. When you decide to start that relationship with Jesus and you agree with him that he is the best plan, he has made the most incredible sacrifice, he has loved you when you never knew who he was, and once you agree to that exchange, what happens is he just runs alongside of you and he course corrects so you get a little better and a little better and a little better, and you don't go crazy enough. You don't go that crazy anymore. You have a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more. And that's how it works. We never get to the place we've arrived. We're human. But when he walks with us, when we fall down exhausted, he will be there to lift you up and say, let's get something to eat. Come on, let's start with that. You can do this. So don't give up. Don't decide you're going to run away and not face what is standing right in front of you, because God is the one that's going to bring the fire and bring the rain, and he's going to provide. Let's pray. Let's worship. Would you stand? God, thank you for all that you've done. Thank you that you are the one that holds the power in our lives, and you make it very clear what your desire is for us, and that's to find you in the midst of the exhaustion and let you do your work. And God, help us to know that when we feel completely alone, we're never completely alone. You are always with us. You never leave. You never get offended. You never get your feelings hurt. You never decide you don't like us anymore. You never decide we've gone too far or we've been way too out of control. You never decide that. You always, always see me as worth it. And today, we ask for your hand to move in this place. And the church said, amen. Let's worship.